Welcome to episode 4 of Me and Virgil, a Genesis Brothers podcast.
Well, me and Virgil, we beat the desert, riding fast and riding hard. We hit the city, the past behind us, so we raced some hell. We had some fun, washing dishes and making coffee.
So welcome back to our two-parter of the album special of We Can't Dance. I am joined here, as always, by my brother, Alex C. Telander, a.k.a.
AKA Virgil.
Welcome back to the two-parter. Little did we know this was going to be a two-parter, but I guess we had a lot to say
It's
about
almost like
this
our
album, We Can't
first
Dance.
Genesis album we ever listened to and made a huge impression on us that we have many things to say about it after, enjoying it for 30 years.
It appears to be that way, yeah. So for those of you who are
25 years.
wondering, like, well, we're going to basically focus on side 2 today. Now, if those of you who are like in this coming from the world of CDs, that basically means we're going from song number 6. I'm sorry, from song number 7 onwards. And because we spent the last episode, which turns out to be a full episode, talking about the first 6 songs of the album We Can't Dance, because we had a lot to say about it, and it took a long time.
Right.
So we decided to split this into 2 episodes. So we'll see whether.
So if you're confused why we're starting in the middle here, go check the last episode to start at the beginning. If side 2 is your favorite side of the album and you just love those songs more than anything else, then just stick with this episode, I guess.
Stick around, yeah. Stick around. So yeah, well, without any further ado, we'll just jump straight into it, and we shall kick off then this song 7, side 2, a fantastic track in my opinion, called "Tell Me Why."
Mothers crying in the street, children dying at their feet. Tell me why. Oh, tell me why. People starving everywhere. There's too much food, but there's none to spare. Tell me why.
And for me, I love this track. From the first second I heard it, those thumping drums kicking in, hitting your face, and it's got a very kind of 60s feel to it, I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
It got, even with that
Well, this is
clanging
it.
guitar.
You've got Mike doing his 12 string. He brought out the 12 string just for this.
That's right.
And it gives it, I was thinking of this recently, and it's reminding me of, okay, now that I'm actually going to have to say it, I've forgotten what I was thinking of. The Birds, and what's their song? Time, what is it? Turn, Turn, Turn.
Oh.
The Birds song. It's kind of like that bit,
True.
the down, down,
True.
down, down.
True.
And it's obviously sped up a bit, but it's kind of similar to that. But a great, side 2 opener of just when you thought, you might be coming to the lesser songs on the album, bam, we hit you with this great one.
It's yeah, and it's a great. It's really in your face, and it just really brings up the tempo, and especially when you've just come from something like "Dream Away Sleep," which is a very mid-tempo, dark one. And even though the subject matter of this song is also not exactly positive, happy, everything about the chords and everything is all just positive and, well, major at least, So
Right, major, exactly.
it is major, and that's true. But I keep forgetting that the 12 string is back after so many years. I mean, when was the last Sean? Was it like? Did he even make an appearance on Duke, or even then where there were 3? I don't know, but it's great to have it back, and I'd love to know how that came about and everything. And it's another Phil lyric, this song, but knowing what the song is about, I suppose that's really no surprise, really.
Right. Especially coming off of But Seriously.
especially coming off that, especially coming off. But seriously, so in a way, I guess you can call it Phil's Another Day in Paradise Part 2, and it's all about the famine. But
Or Colors Part 2. Well, there was a Part 2 to Colors. Colors Part 3.
oh, geez, yeah, you're right. Yeah, God. But I think this one particular was focusing on the famine in, well, Ethiopia for some reason. I read about that it was particularly about this. Yeah, and of course it's so as it's a Phil lyric. The very first text you're reading or you listen to, it says, "Mother's crying in the street, children dying at her feet. Tell me why." So instantly you just know what the song's going to be about. It's like, okay. So
I mean, if you need a little more, the next line is people starving everywhere.
too much food and there's none to spare.
Also, and then in classic Phil fashion, as he writes these kind of protest songs, the next lyric too is "There's too much food, but none to spare." As in, there's plenty of food in the world, but we can't work together enough to spread it around.
Yeah, I can't seem to figure it out and keep arguing about it. Yeah, it's so that's what the song is about, and it's that, as far as I know, Genesis haven't really touched on this before. It's a new, refreshing story for them. I mean, they've had their protest songs before in terms of like Land of Confusion, and I suppose even with Driving the Last Spike, it kind of is a little bit like that as well. It's almost like a what's it called, a testimony in a way. So about that. So yeah, but with that though, it's great thumping beats. Like I said, it just kind of reminds me of the 60s kind of vibe where snares just kind of going on all four beats. I know this song is not doing that, but I just get that feel, and
what it does kind of with the chorus, is it, or whatever it is, when it speeds up, there is part of certain part of the song where it is
there you go
beating,
there you go that's
that's
true. It does happen in the chorus, which is a phenomenal chorus. I absolutely love the chorus of this song.
Can you see that shaft of sunlight? Can you see it in my eyes? I can feel the fire that's burning, anger and hope so deep within my heart. But before my eyes, for some it's too late. 'Cause it seems there's no one listening.
You've got powerful Phil harmonies as well. And can you see that shaft of sunlight? Can you see it in my eyes? It's just, I love singing this song.
Full of emotion
as well.
Again from Phil.
A lot of emotion.
Yeah, singing along. Yep.
Yeah,
belting out the lyrics. Yep.
It's a really catchy song. And no surprise.
I mean, it does feel with Phil writing this, he probably was thinking back to the Byrds, maybe the Holly, just
Perhaps.
different 60s bands, and
Yeah,
going for
maybe
that harmony and that feel.
True, getting a bit of that 60s.
And that's when Mike's like, well, why don't I pull out my 12 string and do it like this?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of tambourine on this as well, so I'm guessing we got a little hint of his old Motown-y influence on this track as well. Yeah.
And then with that constant
track.
beat that happens at certain parts during the song, I always feel that's a hard thing to do, because it's very easy to sound like, no, stop it with the drums. It's a little too much, But you've got to find the right song to do that and the right balance to do it in, and it works well on this song.
Yeah. And I love the Phil snare on this album. He's got a very, very thin snare, but it's so in your face. But it just has this perfect amount of tone and sustain that just cuts out immediately, but it's still enough to stay there to definitely show that it's very present, and it works so well, especially.
So is it you would say is it a different snare to No Son of Mine?
No, I think it's the same one. I think he used the same snare for the entire album. I know Phil likes to collect snares and use loads of snares, but as far as I know, it's the same one for the album.
It just seems like, because on No Son of Mine, it feels like such a dominant sound, drum in the song. Whereas with this one, it feels more, not quite as forward.
Well, it could also be the case, like there's definitely a lot more, I think, instrumentation on this. With that, you got a bit more percussion, tambourine, and obviously 12-string as well. So it could also be a case of like a little bit of a mixing thing where it's not so in your face in a way, I suppose. but it's definitely
And I
still
guess
there, definitely still present.
Tony could have tried to do more because it's mainly just him and the piano here, just doing
Hmm.
stuff, nice accompanying piano stuff that makes as well. But he could have added more with like, or maybe some keyboard sounds, some chords and things like that. But it feels like that might have been too much, and
Perhaps,
that it's just right the way it is.
perhaps, yeah. And again, yeah, it's true. Apart from maybe driving the last spike and with some little honky tonk piano on I Can Dance. Well, but actually, I was
Mhm.
going to say there's not really been any major keyboard moments with Tony. But then again, it's only been real like either rhythmical sounds, special sounds with No Son of Mine, and then that little reggae Jesus He
Mhm.
Knows Me kind of vibe, and then little melodies. But otherwise, Tony's been kind of like sitting back a little bit, with the last few songs. Never Have
I mean,
Time,
he's
Dream
got
While You
his
Sleep.
chords, his beautiful
His
chords,
chords are
but yeah,
definitely
not
there.
so
His
much
chords are
solos.
definitely there.
But
Yeah.
then maybe, for all you know, maybe they did, what the tracks we're going to talk about that have the solos, "Living Forever," "Away the World," and "Fading Lights." Maybe they did those early on, and they're like, "Okay, Tony, you need to take a break on the next three songs, okay?" And it just ended up with the layout of the album that they ended up being later on in the album.
Yeah, perhaps. No, it's just this song wastes no time in taking you from the first chapter A, chapter B, chapter C, just straight
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
verse chorus, bridge, and then even the middle eight as well. And it's it got some really powerful lyrics in there as well. It's basically about saying like, it's been years since this has carried on, yet we're still talking about this because nothing's changing. It's like no one's doing enough about this subject matter. And lyrics like,
And I feel like
who would think this still could
we've
happen
talked
in this
about
time
this
and
for
place?
yeah, but I also feel like, hey, guess what? Those lyrics still resonate just as strong today
Yep.
in 2023.
Yep. Which is why I was thinking about this today actually. That sadly I think that I've got some reasons. These are potential reasons why, or theoretical reasons why, maybe that when this song was actually released as a single, it just did
Right.
not do as well as the others. In fact, did not do really well. Well, it did okay, but I think it ended up in the top 40s. Whereas
Was it
compared
like
to
was it the last single on the album too? Was it
that's
the
another
fourth
thing
one
as well.
after? Yeah.
That's another thing. It was the last single. It was the fifth single, I think. But that can't be right.
Because
No,
you had No
that's
Son of Mine, Jesus He Knows Me, I Can't
I Can't
Dance.
Dance. Hold on My Heart
Oh,
was
that was
also
a single. That's right, that was a single. Yeah,
that
yeah.
was a single. Okay, so this was number.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Number five.
this is number 5. Yeah, this is the fifth single
Which
from
is
the
too
album.
bad since all proceeds from the single were donated to charity, but it didn't
Yeah,
do as well.
also true, but it did not do as well. And I remember even
Yeah.
Tony saying in the documentary, saying like, when this came out and that's where it landed, to him he felt like,
Mm,
okay, there's a change happening in the air. There's something's different.
mm,
Something's happening with the band here, and he felt like this could have maybe been like. And when he said that change, it's almost as if they'd say like, maybe this might be not the end for us to sound that dramatic, but the way he
mhm,
said that, it just felt like, okay,
mm.
something different is happening here. But I think
So would you say that he said there's something happening in the air tonight? Those were his exact words, right?
those were exact words, yeah. But I think just because it was the last single from the
Mm,
album, if maybe it
mhm,
was like maybe earlier on, maybe if it came like as the third single or heck even the fourth single,
mm.
perhaps, then maybe it might have been different, might have climbed higher up. And plus, unfortunately, I think I'm not saying that everyone thought this, but perhaps because, especially being a Phil lyric, but yet Phil was singing it, it's like, well, here's Phil going on again, singing about world hunger and
Right.
famine. It's like, Phil, you
Yeah.
spent 2 years singing about this, a whole album singing about this. We've heard it. Let's move on. It's like, well, you can't move on. It's like, unfortunately, this subject matter, this and climate change is still very much in our
Hmm.
minds and in our headspace today. And we keep talking about it
But
because to hopefully get other people to help and do something about it, you see. So,
yeah. But let me play devil's advocate for a moment, as I
mm,
was recently discovering this apparently was in the live set list for a little bit in very early rehearsals and then soon got dropped. If it had
yeah,
stayed in the show, more people would have known about it. I don't know when the fifth
perhaps.
single came out. Was it during the tour?
No
If they were
idea.
playing it all around, maybe people would have known more about it, gone out to buy it.
That's a very
Or he
good
could have
point.
done, and he could have done what he did with, actually was for Another Day in Paradise during the But Seriously tour when he had asked for donations, remember, from people to put it
Yep,
in the buckets on the way out and stuff like that, and
yep,
just yeah, help support.
yep. True. True.
You're looking it up real quick.
I'm just trying to find out when it was released as the single. Although, wow, I'm discovering here that the B-sides of the single are just all live versions of Dream Me While You Sleep, Turn It On Again, Tonight, Mama, Brazilian, Invisible Touch. I want to have that single.
It was
Jeez.
released. It's saying it was released in the UK
Oh, you got it.
the 8th of February,
8th of February.
1993.
Oh, God. That's the
So
end.
well into
That's,
the tour.
That's beyond the tour. That's past the tour.
Mm-hmm. That's
get-
that's that past The Way We Walk Longs, Volume 2, The Longs, I think, too.
Oh, true, yeah. Oh, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure when I came
Yeah,
out.
because the album came 91, and then the shorts came out in December 92, and then the longs came out in January 93, I think.
January 93. So this was literally the last thing
Yeah.
that they released. Okay.
And if they'd been playing it at every damn show,
Yeah.
people would
then
have remembered it
more
more and
people
been
would have
like,
heard
oh, we're
about it.
going to buy this and just bought it. Who knows?
I wonder why it was dropped. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because it can be. It's a very
never
powerful.
know.
It's a very.
Or maybe
powerful song.
one day an interview will show up on YouTube and we will know.
Yeah.
Unlikely.
Well, there's a lot.
know.
Yeah. Well, there's another song which we will be touching on later on, which was also in their set, and there is actually audio footage of
Yeah.
them rehearsing it.
Yes.
But it was. But
Actually, isn't that the next song?
No. Oh my God! That is they also did this song. Yeah. Jeez.
I thought you were segueing, Dan. You were setting up your segue.
Oh no, I was thinking of
You
another.
could redo it if you want.
I was thinking of another song actually, but yeah, they did touch on another like song on this album, which they did have in the set at some point. No idea why it was dropped, but that, funny enough, is actually the song which we're going to be touching on next, which is another fantastic track, groovy track called "Living Forever."
But I'm feeling so confused today. Well, they've gone and changed the rules again. 'Cause in my life I'm trying hard to do it all so I can remain healthy and sane. I live forever. Always one more tomorrow. Living forever. Always one more tomorrow.
Now, it's not "Live Forever" by Oasis. Don't get confused by that. I was gonna say because that track came out years later, but actually no, it only came out 3 years later. That track.
Yeah, so not too much. It felt like it.
But yeah,
Musically different.
so "Living Forever," and finally we have a Tony lyric. Yay!
And a Tony solo.
And a Tony solo. Yes.
A fantastic solo, of course.
But-
And also another song that, like No Son of Mine, and then bringing it up again with Jesus He Knows Me. You have Tell Me Why with some cool drums and really lift it up, and then Living Forever again explodes with drums and picks you up even more.
Yeah, I'm quite intrigued to know what exactly is going on there with the drums, because it sounds like a lot of like brush work, and basically like you can have drumsticks, wooden drumsticks, but you can also have these brushes, and they basically have these little metallic wires that are stuck into these little rubber sticks, and that's what jazz drummers use a heck of a lot of. It can be used with
Right,
can be made with
brushes,
some other material as well, but it's mostly used with these wires, and it sounds like a lot of brushwork is on that. But I think, to quote Phil, when he was asked if he played brushes on what was the track now? Oh bugger! It was an old Genesis track, I believe, and he basically said, "I can't play brushes to save my life." He said something like that, even though he does play brushes only a few years later on his big band tour. So don't know what he's going on about.
Right. Well, then he finally he remembered this part obviously, and then said, "No, I'm going to learn to play them now."
That's probably what he did.
I mean,
yeah.
maybe it was a drumstick, and it was just musically engineered to sound very soft and almost brushy.
Yeah, it could either be that, or it could just be like another drum machine. That good old drum machine that perhaps they used it as
that
well.
too.
Reprogrammed it too.
Yeah.
because I actually tell what is live and
'Cause
what is
it's-
programmed or whatnot. Only until the
that's true.
solo, the keyboard solo, the instrumental section kept in at the end.
I was about to say because you have the intro, and then as he goes into the verse, then you have that soft, almost drum machine thing,
Mhm.
which goes on until you get to the solo, and then the drums like kick in, like, "Hey, now we're gonna get really groovy and cool." And Tony, bring us your solo.
Yes. So to carry on with a little trend that we've got going on here with these episodes is that we'll touch on the first lyric of this song, and being a Tony lyric, of course, it's like the first lyric, I'm feeling so confused today. It's like, good, Tony, you've arrived. Yes. Touch us with your mysteriousness, Yeah, I'm feeling so confused today. They've gone and changed the rules again. It's like, what are you going on about? What? So yeah, you want to listen because you're kind of curious what the heck this is all going to be about. But it sounds like as if the song is about longevity, living forever.
Well, to me, when I was listening to this again recently, and I was going through the lyrics along, to me, it sounded like, again, a lot to do with living long and wanting to take various pills and drinks and other, supposed helping liquids that will change your life, and actually are just, made up cocktails that don't actually help you at all, but are just made to make a fast buck and get money out of you. And the way I interpret it is just, it's almost like diet fads. There's always a new one every year, every 5 years, every 10 years of a new thing. I see a lot of this as a daily postman where I'm delivering. Actually, there's one, I think it's called, was it Young Living? It's called, or Younger Living. It's like some pills I deliver to various customers and things like that too. And it's just, I see this all the time, and everyone has their new
so there's this
gimmick that's supposed to make you feel, yeah.
So this is what he's going on about with the first lyric, saying they've gone and changed the rules again.
Yep.
And saying like,
Yep.
okay,
right. This is the one that's going to make you live forever.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, it's like, no, you shouldn't drink coffee anymore.
Or I mean,
because you should have this instead. But it's like, no, you actually, you know what? You should drink coffee if you want to live forever. That's what you should do.
Coffee's going to kill you. No, coffee's going to make you live longer.
Yeah. Okay.
Or on the second verse where he says, "I heard it on the radio," too much of what they said wasn't so. It's like they're saying one thing now, and then they're saying a different thing next week.
Yeah.
Because it's all about. Again, very resonating lyric for today in 2023, where you can't always believe what you hear online and elsewhere too, because it's a lot of media manipulation. They're just saying what do they want to get clicks and likes and whatever they need to get more attention instead of actually selling a useful product.
Yeah. I mean, you type in saying, I want to have a long life. I want to live the longevity lifestyle. You just put that into YouTube. Be prepared to be confused and to have too much of what they said. So, because that you just be bombarded with various videos, courses of all these people with their own opinions, and who some of them can be true, and some of them probably just don't have a clue what they're talking about or whatever. It's just it can be a sensitive subject matter to talk about, and my wife and I in particular, we really kind of looked into that a few years back as well, in the particular, like saying like, I mean, obviously everyone wants to live a good long life, have a long lifespan under their belt, and we would love to be
Healthy
living
life, yep.
We would love to be living well into our hundreds, and to reach that point, and to look back and just think like, yeah, we did that with our lifestyle, So we've paid a bit more attention to that in the last few years. So, but it's a quite a cool subject matter that Tony's talking about. Again, 20 years of listening to this.
Almost in some ways, as we're talking about it,
really
it's almost quite down to earth for Tony in many ways.
Yeah, true. I mean, but at the same time, it does have a little bit of a twist. It's kind of like, okay, we're going to talk about living forever, but it's all BS. So,
bit of a fantasy element to it that he always liked. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So this was in the, as we mentioned, this was in the set list for a little bit, and you've got actual rehearsal footage of it, which we'll link in the show notes here. I was trying to remember, because we saw the set list too, and I was trying to remember, it was Land of Confusion, No Son of Mine, and then I think it was Living Forever before Driving the Last Night.
I think it was really early in the set list. That's right. I think it was like track 3 or something, which I think is brilliant. Yeah, because then you've got Phil drumming straight away as well. I
mean, I wonder if they'd kept this in and then tell me why they kept in, and then the other track what I mentioned later too, like, because Phil's coming off his But Seriously tour, where if you take the tour as a whole, he played every song except Father to Son off But Seriously at some point live during the thing, which is
Yep.
that's amazing for an album to play like almost every song.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll go for a similar thing here. I mean, when you know they're all good songs, you want to play them, don't you?
Totally.
Especially because it's a fresh new music that you're really into.
Well, it's always going to be that tough decision, right? Because obviously you got to play the singles, but then you want to play. I mean, there was no doubt in their mind that like, well, we've got to do like Driving the Last Spike. It's just this big number, and Phil, you wrote the words for it, so let's really take this out, and see what it's like. And then, but then you go, okay, now we've got the other album tracks. Which one are we going to do? Which one would sound great? It's always going to be the tough call to be like, okay, well, let's just play this and see what it sounds like. Especially having their live members. Okay, let's see what Daryl and Chester brings to this as well, because they got to put their stamp on it as well.
I mean, they could have easily fixed this by just performing for 3 hours instead of 2.5. I mean,
that's right. That's right. I
think they did do it in the early 70s with shows.
Yeah, and so I think the song did eventually, it did appear online, but only for like the first 30 seconds. There was like news coverage somewhere in the States, and they said, oh yeah, and this is Genesis, and you heard little snippets, and of course that was like, for a while, that was like a golden gem for any Phil dance era fans, But then finally the full version appeared. Can't remember where from. I don't think it was from anywhere like the Genesis Museum or anything like that. It just was there suddenly on YouTube.
Showed up, yeah. And this documentary of the rehearsal in Texas, I think, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, I think so. I can't remember what it was. But
they're in this giant hangar.
Oh, this giant hangar. That's right. They were still rehearsing then. That's right. Because they definitely.
That's the only way they could fit the stage in.
Yes,
it was huge.
Oh, that's right. That's right. In Houston, that's where it was. Yeah, but but the full version is there, and it sounds great. And then,
except that Tony's solo, something happens on the keyboards, and he has to change something mid solo because it goes down a tone or something. It's something weird, and then he has to switch it back.
Oh,
so maybe there's another rehearsal recording somewhere else. It's an old medley moment for me of now it's changed. It's not quite perfect because there's a little weird bit in the middle.
Ah, right, yeah. True. No, but it's a really.
So maybe there's another video somewhere of it.
Maybe. Who knows? We'll see if it emerges in the next decade or so. Yeah. But it's a really. Again, very different track from the rest of the album. It's quite funky, actually. It's got a big, cool, funky feel to it, with these very bombastic drum pads and things going on like this, and then these very
and it could have when the solo comes in too. It could have changed too. They could have changed it a bit going into the solo, but they keep it going, which is kind of cool.
Well, with the wonderful guitar work from Mike, just the classic rhythmic Mike did.
Not doing too much, doing just enough. Yep.
Yeah. Just perfect. Just perfect temperature for the soup. Yes.
And a fantastic ending too.
We've just that's the thing. We've just gone through like all these strong wordings, about who can, what can you listen to, what are you going to pay attention to, and then I think the bridge part as well, saying, I know we don't need you, we don't believe you, you don't really have the answers. And I do love when they go back into a third and final verse, that little bit of just extra topping on the cake. We've just suddenly got a tambourine coming in there, and then these beautiful filled harmonies. Yeah. And it almost makes me wonder, as if to think like, I wonder if like it starts off with one person kind of complaining, wondering what to do, and then a little bit of extra harmony comes in. Now we've got a few more people, and it's almost as if like verse 3 now, you've got a whole crowd of people just hands in the air going like, come on, what the F is going on? Just give us an answer, for God's sake.
We know you're stringing us along, and you're not actually telling the truth.
Yeah, it's like they're marching down the street protesting. Hey, this sounds like another protest song, to be honest. Protest from Tony. Instead to say,
very surprising from Tony.
Who should we listen to? And then, but a very powerful lyric though at the very end, because all this time it's about living forever, but then the last lyric is like, do you really want to live forever? And that just, that really, it's almost like, okay, a nice little classic Genesis thing to like kind of close off this subject matter in a way. Very, very wonderfully done. And then of course we get
with the cool drums.
And then we get into this, it kind of breaks down a little bit. You wonder what's going on, classic Mike, and then boom, these drums kicking. You're like, oh, we're going somewhere now. We're going somewhere. I like it. And then one of my favorite moments in the album, second Tony starts playing, it's a blissful moment for me as well. It's and then just crescendos into this insane, dramatic, wonderful, awesome piece, and it's just unbelievable. I love it. And again, from a drummer's perspective, it's tons of fun to play to. Tons of fun to play along to.
I bet. Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah, lots of fun fills and playing around and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially with the kind of funky beat too. I was just thinking though, with how great this song ends and that "Tell Me Why" fades out.
Mm-hmm.
How would they have ended "Tell Me Why" when they were playing it live? I bet it would have been really cool.
Well, that's the thing, and I think with a couple of songs in, little spoiler, that's one of the reasons why they dropped that song, which is the later song. Apparently, that's the story it goes, that they dropped it because they could not figure out how to end the song. Even though there's audio footage of them rehearsing it, and they actually do end it. But I guess they were just never too happy with how it ended. So, and with "Tell Me Why," yeah, you kind of want.
You talking about "Living Forever" or "Tell Me What"? You're talking about "Living Forever" here, right?
Oh no, the
No.
we're talking 2 songs away from here now. So.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
No, "Living Forever," like, thankfully, it ends exactly like that. You see, so. I'm curious.
Tell me why they could have brought back the opening in some way to end it on that way too.
Perhaps, yeah.
It starts out so good, and then much like "Living Forever,"
I
it's
do
beautifully
wonder though why this was dropped. It's, I don't know whether they just thought, like, compared to other tunes and trying to fit in more tunes. I mean, who knows? Maybe this was in there before the whole medley thing was in there yet, and they just thought, oh god, now we've got like 25 minutes of music here. We're going to have to drop a few things. I don't know.
So I want to go find Tony and interview him and ask him these, point blank questions. He'll probably be a bit pissed off if I get at first saying, "Oh, still talking about this old stuff, huh?" But he tends to, at least even if it's not true, he tends to remember in detail and stuff. So he'll probably remember why. Yeah, because I just didn't like my lyric in that one song, so that's why I cut it.
Yeah, no doubt it'd be like so. He'll be like, "Oh well, it was my decision, basically." It's like I figured that, Tony. I figured that, yeah, but why? So. But yeah, a great.
All right, shall we move on?
Yes, a great number to follow with "Tell Me Why." Very different, and then definitely could use a breather after this. Great,
right, bring things down
awesome
a bit.
classic Genesis moment into "Hold On My Heart."
Hold on, my heart. Just hold on to that feeling. We both know we've been here before. We both know what can happen. Hold on, my heart.
Another Phil lyric. And which the title of the song is said in the very first line. "Hold on my heart." You just think, it's coming. It's coming.
Nice love song. Yep.
Very nice love song. Working title, Burt. Named after
was it
Burt
Burt?
Bacharach.
Was it? I was going to say Burt Bacharach. Yeah,
named after Burt Bacharach. Sadly, also now the late Burt Bacharach. Not too long ago,
Right.
he sadly passed. No, it's because that Tony just really used these chords that reminded him a lot of Burt Bacharach. You see, so
Burt Bacharach's one of my early heroes, really, and I love the way he uses chords and was able to have big hits with songs that used a multitude of chords. And I suppose the song "Hold on My Heart," which we call Burt, has an element of that.
Oh, okay.
and that's why
Really
they
beautiful
nicknamed
chords.
it. And I know that Phil kind of argues with this song as well about this song, because obviously I wouldn't be surprised if this was another one of the ones that fans could have just been like, okay, well, it's fine, but it could have done.
I personally go up and down on it. I'm thinking right now I'm on an up still. I mean, it's tough because it's like, if it's live, it's like, okay, it's a nice song, but I could do with an older Genesis song. I'd prefer to have in here. However,
it's the P break song.
it's a beautiful song, and yeah, right, and it's a beautiful song. He sings it really well. Even live, he sings it beautifully and hits such incredible notes. The chords are beautiful. Guitar bit is beautiful in it too. It's a very well done song. I would just prefer to have Abacab. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, it just sounds like something that was just I would even though it might not seem like it, but another one that was just probably just jammed out, and Phil probably had the drum track.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely no real drums. There's some cymbal stuff going on in this song, but otherwise it's just all drum tracks. And I think that probably Phil found this groove, and then just Tony started just playing these beautiful chords, and then Mike with this wonderful plucking guitar stuff, which reminds me a little bit of like Living Years, that.
I was just about to say that. Yep, that's what started playing in my head.
Yeah, it was playing in my head too. I probably couldn't be thinking of it. So again, a wonderful collaboration with the three of them, and yeah, as you say, Phil does a beautiful job. Again, there is footage from the No Admittance documentary, but we're again showing footage of Phil doing it, and good next choice to show Phil singing of this one, because you can't really not struggle, with this piece. It's very low. It's quite low for his range, actually. It's quite low for his range, but yeah, he had didn't have no problem singing this, and even for the tours that followed this, with the Weekend Dance tour, and even for the reunion tour, they're in exactly the same key.
Well, at the end, when he does it live too, towards the end of the song, when he just starts, holding out, and just beautifully the way he hits these different notes,
It's
going
yeah,
higher and higher. Well, not higher and higher, but louder and louder and stuff.
The classic Phil just kind of like ad-libbing with melodies, guiding the band, taking them out, taking them on. But by this point, though, he's super experienced from all his solo tours, doing those kind of things. A bit of like the whole One More Night vibe, where the drum track fades out, and then it's just him kind of like conducting everyone, with these vocals and everything. So it reminds me of that.
Or Take Me Home live too at the end of Take Me Home.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. He knows it works. He knows the crowd loves it.
It's quite.
And I think it's one of his favorite songs too. That's why I like to sing it.
It's quite amusing as well in the Turn It On Again tour documentary, where they're rehearsing it, and they're trying to figure out when's the drum track supposed to fade out, and he does it 2 or 3 times. He's literally counting the bars. I guess from the previous tour, the Way We Walk stuff, he's literally counting the bars of like how many times is it until the track starts to fade out. It's like, oh, okay, by bar 10, we're out. So it's like, it's like, do you really want to make it identical to the last one? Probably just because it worked so well last time. So let's just do it. Yeah.
But perfect placement in the album, I think, too, to kind of bring things down a bit and quiet moment, nice little. Again, a sad kind of song, as he tends to write, love song of a relationship that's on the rock, and
Hold On My Heart.
Then again, it brings it down nicely, nice and soft, and then sets up great for the next song.
Oh, just one last thing I want to say. I love that very rare moments for him though, like to really sing high falsetto in that bridge part. The whole "I will be there." He really, to nail that every single time. It's very. It could go either way, here or there, and he really, and even for the reunion tour in 2007, Turn It On Again tour, you can tell his voice is much thinner, and at that point, and a lot of the tunes he had to like drop, but for Hold On My Heart, he still nailed it. He still got it there, and like I said, to really,
I wonder if he would have wanted it for Last Domino, and he's like, nope, it's just not happening anymore.
Yeah, but you ask it is a tough one to try and really get that tune without auto-tune,
right?
To really nail that
or a woman singing it who can sing higher.
Yeah, also true. Yeah, but anyway, it's a nice tune. As you say, it's a great place on the album, which it's a beautiful little low dynamic to then bring us back up again to amazing track, Way of the World. You are introduced
opening
to
with drums again.
Opening with drums again, yeah. And I love those drums, the blah bloom bloom, and it's just in your face. But I did find out, and again through the making of documentary, that the drum, I think the drum tracks itself, even though that snare does sound like Phil, apparently it is a programmed track. So maybe he just did a few takes and then they just grabbed it and then just looped it, you know. Maybe they did something like that. I don't know, because at one point, though, you're listening to the track and Phil looks at the camera and he says,
Bass drum you're hearing now, I didn't play. I wasn't good enough to play it.
I mean, maybe that was one of the last songs they did or something, and they're starting to crunch time as they're starting needing to release the album and get everything off to get it made and stuff. Yeah,
maybe, yeah. I mean, all those fills that you're hearing, they're all live. They're all, you know, Phil doing himself and with the cymbals and everything. But yeah, again, amazing chords.
I mean, it's a Mike lyric, right? I think I was just checking.
I think so. I thought it was a Tony lyric, to be honest, actually.
Well, it says Tony and Mike were involved in it. On my little chart I have here, they're both in bold, but Mike is underlined, which I think is even more.
Okay.
And it's, you know, another bit of a protest song about the way of the world and
You're right. No,
those who have it and those who don't.
According to Wiki, lyrics, Rutherford. Yeah, Mike wrote the lyrics. So here's Land of Confusion Part 2.
Well, I'd say if it's Land of Confusion Part 2, I think the lyrics are actually better. And again, if you go back to your opening lyric, if you take the tears from crying eyes, will the hurt just disappear?
Yes.
To be honest, really cool thing, you know, just with playing around, you know, take the motion of a spinning wheel, wash it up, you know, take the danger out of a naked flame. What have you got?
Again, awesome.
Take the anger out of a broken heart. It's just so many cool like dynamics set up.
It makes you question. It makes you question things, you know, and it's like, how does this all work? And Mother Nature sits on the other side with a loaded gun. All these things, you know. So, so that's strange. For years, I kind of thought there was always a Tony lyric. Okay, there you go. Yeah, no. So it's definitely less protest. It's just more about, okay, you know, how does this really all work? You know, not going to go as far as saying what is the meaning of life, but he definitely is questioning like all these ways of the world that, you know, this little planet's just circling and all these things are happening inside of it. Yep. That we're all like
the little graphic is it's the world with blue and red on it and showing swirling kind of pattern on it. Yeah.
That's the thing. That's particularly, I thought that was a Tony lyrics that said, "Oh, why is there blue sky? Where's the red sky?" And it's like, okay, where's he going with this?
Oh, okay.
You know? But, yeah.
Also, I think too, though, showing juxtapositions, but also showing, you know, people see things so differently, and when you're looking from the outside, you can see it one way or the other, and
and it builds, and musically, it keeps you feel like it's building to something. You know, it's almost like there's like a pressure boiling, and then suddenly, just when you wonder like, where's it gonna go? Where's it gonna go? Builds to this amazing chorus, and to me it's one of my favorite moments in the album.
As far as we can see, it's just the way of the world, and that's how it's meant to be. There's right, there's wrong, there's weak, oh, there's strong.
And again, having that classic ooh, that ooh is back again, just like we had on Never a Time. So that was the other song I was thinking of then. And it's just the way of the world. That's how it's meant to be. There's right, there's wrong, there's weak, there's strong.
Now, was this going to be performed live too?
This was rehearsed. There's audio footage of them rehearsing it, and this was the one. This was the one that the story goes they dropped it because they couldn't figure out an ending. So, even though they did do an ending, you know. However, I have to say though, listen to the live version, that the chorus kicks in.
I just figured out the ending. So you finish singing the bits and you come towards the end, and then you come down to just the bit where it's the little bit on the guitar, softly of Mike and Tony doing their thing, and then you end it like you started with the ended. Next song.
No, but one thing
I just need to invent a time machine now. Go back, tell them, and then we can put it in the set list. And then we'll have to record this episode.
To be honest, when I did hear the older footage, we'll leave the link here as well. That it's a bit muffled, you know, it's a bit tricky to hear especially with Phil's vocals, but the chorus though he's the only one singing. Because what I love about the chorus is those harmonies. But unfortunately, I don't know whether for the rehearsal purposes that they hadn't planned it yet, the backing vocals, how they were going to sing it. But it's just Phil singing, you see. And I was desperately missing it because it's a lot of lyrics in the song. And he's
Well, that might be something also that the other guys couldn't have done as good of a job of singing.
Maybe that's
backing
another reason
vocals
why
on.
they dropped it.
And what you'd really need was the two guys from Last Domino tour, because they would have done a good job of it.
True. But they do. I mean, to be honest, actually, I think with this particular tour, Weekend Dance Tour, I mean, I think Tony and Mike were singing, and plus Daryl, were singing way more than any other tour prior to that. There's a lot of full 3-part harmonies.
Really, not since Trick of the Tail and late 70s stuff.
Well, like if you think about it, like I mean, apart from the OOs with Atlantic Confusion, No Son of Mine, the No Son of Mine. Driving the Last Spite, Can You Hear Me, Can You See? And then the old medley stuff with the whole Lamb Down on Broadway, I Know What I Like.
Lines down, 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 down. Yes, I know what I like. And I like,
Very full, powerful vocals. Yep. And then Jesus, He Knows Me as well.
'Cause Jesus, He knows me, and He knows I'm right. And I've been talking to Jesus all my life.
Yeah, it's like half the set list is just full backing vocals. So I that's why I was kind of thinking, like, I feel like they surely could have like done it with this one as well. But I don't know how complex the stuff they had to play with their instruments. Maybe they wasn't working for them. You see, and so
and we need to sit Tony down and just ask him.
Yeah, there we go. We sit Tony down. We're going to get this whole book of questions for him, ready for it. The golden gem of questions.
Maybe he'll put it in his book if he ever writes his autobiography.
Yeah, where's his autobiography? Where's this going to come out?
I mean, the problem is probably it's because it's going to be 1,000 pages and no one wants to print it. But I'd like to read it still if it's 1,000 pages.
I will happily. I'll pay an arm and leg for it, to read it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we crescendo into one of my favorite solos of Tony that he's ever done. Honestly, and
gosh, yeah.
And without fail, I BS you not. Without fail, every time it gets to that solo, I just turn the volume up just a notch,
a little bit more,
because I just love that moment. And it's one of my favorite solos of his ever, because he is just going for it, absolutely going for it. And apart from Living Forever, third solo on the album as well with Tony. It's so powerful.
Third solo?
Sorry, second solo. There you go. So, second solo on the album. Third solo to come later on. And it's just, and again, it just shows you what an incredible musician he is. How it's like, okay, we're now segueing our way back into the chorus again. The chord is changing here. We've got a little mid chord between the solo and back into the chorus again. So not only we're going to put in a little extra chord there, but I'm also going to end in the end of my solo to reach that chord and fit in very beautifully to that chord.
Yeah.
I just think it just builds and builds and builds and just back into this incredible chorus, which now Phil is now putting a little bit of extra ad-libbing on top of it, just to really take it to that final next level, which you did not think you'd get to, you see. Unless you want to do a modulation, which definitely would not work with this song. No. But somehow you still managed to reach this next level with this song.
And then the guitar, like during the solo, just wonderfully accompanied, comes in and out and everything, not taking over too much ever and just complementing it perfectly. I wanted to mention a thing I forgot to say with the solo in Living Forever, because he uses 2 different keyboard sounds during the solo, and just like I feel like any other keyboard player I've ever heard would just use one sound for the solo and that would be it.
Yep.
But he starts out with one sound and then decides to obviously has to switch to either another keyboard or flip a switch to change the sound. It's like, again, to be that sort of musician, to be like, I'm going to change things up here and make it a different sound to it, and it's going to sound great.
Yep. Totally. Well, that's Tony for you.
Genius.
Indeed. That should be the title of his book.
I mean,
Genius.
he did it. He did it plenty of times in cinema show too. So I mean, it's he knows what he's doing.
He knows what. Oh,
fantastic
totally.
music.
He knows what he's doing. Totally. Yep, a great one. A great spot in the album as well. And again, quite funky as well. The whole thing is kind of like a shuffly, swingy.
Oh yeah, the bass line.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, awesome indeed.
I mean, it's hard, but you don't talk much about Mike's bass playing. But again, throughout this album, it's just he's holding all the songs together. And
Yeah, my only
started as a
critique, I
bass player.
suppose. My only critique. But again, I've not actually listened to like the remasters or anything like that. But I just feel like his bass just could have just been just a notch louder in the mix. That's my little biff with this album. So anyway, so after that, we make our way then over into the last. I suppose you can call it a ballad, an album, but definitely a ballad. But also, it was, according to the documentary, the last song they recorded for the album, in the making of it. A very beautiful track, very touching subject matter called "Since I Lost You."
Very sad.
Yep.
This is probably one of the heaviest things I've ever written, or had a part in writing.
It seems in a moment your whole world can shatter like morning dreams. They just disappear like dust in your hand, falling to the floor. Oh, how can life ever be the same? 'Cause my heart is broken in pieces. Yes, my heart is broken in pieces since you've been gone.
So maybe not a lot of people know about this, and I'm quite surprised actually with the little like inlay notes. For example, talking about like
Yeah.
having the last spike. I'm very surprised this was not mentioned
put
at
a
the
little
beginning
thing
of
at
the
the
track.
beginning.
Because again, I know.
Especially just looking here with the layout and everything too. Like they could have easily he has room here, the way the lyrics are all laid out and everything. There's room here to put a few sentences at the top to fit in because there's not as many lyrics in this song.
No, yeah. So for those of you who wonder what the heck we're talking about, this song, "Since I Lost You," Phil wrote the lyrics, because I think during the making of this album, he got a call and found out that Eric Clapton's son, Connor, sadly died, and it was a very tragic accident that he basically just fell off a very high-story balcony. So very horrible story.
Open
very
the window
tragic.
and fell out. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So, and Phil, as you may have known, Phil's very, very close to Eric Clapton, and he knew his son very well as well, you see. So these lyrics just came to him. But he said they had this piece, and he just wrote these lyrics on top of it, you see. So that is what song is about, unbeknownst to some people who probably would have assumed it's another song about a broken relationship, which in a way it is. Of course it is. But everyone thinks about it's the typical man lost woman relationship, but no, it's very, very different for that matter. Hence why probably would have been a good thing knowing, especially with Phil, thinking like maybe I might put that there to make people know that I'm not singing my usual lyric here. So, but I think he does get dedicated. I think his name does get dedicated. He does receive like a little dedication, right, Connor, in the inlay notes, like towards the end, like the final like credits on the record. I'm pretty sure I saw it there.
I don't know. Well, this is the remastered LP, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't see anything on here.
Okay.
Let me check my CD real quick.
I thought maybe it was mentioned there, dedicated to Connor.
I don't remember seeing anything.
Okay. Like Connor C, I think it was called something like that or whatever.
He's not in the many thanks section or anything. No, don't see anything.
Wow. Okay. All right then.
Nope. Unfortunately, no.
Wow. I swear I could have.
Nice thought, but no.
I swear I could have saw something like that.
Again, maybe if it was the last song they did, again, maybe Push for Time or something. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, but no. Well, at least
Um,
according to the documentary, that this was the last thing they recorded. So, but yeah, it's a very moving song. It's in terms of like the instrumentation wise and everything. It's I mean, not to disrespect at all what it's about, but to me, in terms of how it's performed and played and everything, if I'm going to use a word here, then it's definitely on the slightly weaker side for me in personal taste. That's all. But Phil,
the piano's very nice in it. Again, beautiful guitar bit, lovely solo in the middle of it by Mike and everything that matched the song and everything. But it's
true, beautiful solo from Mike, and Phil is giving his absolute all in it. I mean, no doubt.
Definitely.
He's obviously
actually, I would feel
he's just lost someone very close to him. So
yeah, I would say where in all the other songs where they all complement each other, I would feel in this one the music and the instruments they're playing almost feel a little lesser, whereas Phil's singing is at a higher level.
Yes. That's what I mean. Yeah, it's a bit more sparse, the instrumentation on this one.
I will say the little image thing they got on the inlay details. It's just an empty landscape scene with no people in it, which is just pretty powerful too.
Ooh, wow,
and I was going to say, as listening to this too now, definitely as a parent and trying to imagine what that would have been like is definitely a lot stronger than it would have been before.
I think I kind of stopped myself from kind of going there, in a way.
I don't really do too much, but just like dancing around the idea of it or something like that too. Never actually going fully into it because it's just so horrific. You would only want to.
Yeah. No.
And how you can get past that. Yeah. I feel like there's not too much to be said really about this because
it
is a sad song, especially with the
although
subject matter.
if you would, I mean, now we talk about how like a lot of these songs were almost played live, like rehearsed live and everything. Well, actually, there is technically even a live version of this. Trivia. So again, going back to, I think I mentioned this a lot on the last episode, Phil Collins appearing on VH1 Storytellers, that he actually does describe this song as well, and probably because of what it's about. And so he described the whole thing about how it happened.
We were doing an album with Genesis. We were doing an album, We Can't Dance. And one night after rehearsal, I went home, and a friend rang me up and said, "Have you heard about Eric?" So I said, "No, what do you mean?" He said, "His son's dead." So I couldn't believe it, because I knew Eric very well. I knew Connor very well, and Mike and Tony also knew Eric very well, and we'd been writing this song, but we didn't have any lyrics. It didn't have any direction at all, lyrically, and we played this song because work went on, and the lyrics to this, the chorus to this anyway, came straight away. And when we finished the song, I took it to Eric to play it to him because I wanted him to like it before we released it. If he didn't like it, we wouldn't have released it. And I sat there and I played it to him, and he had tears in his eyes. And then he played me a song, and he said, "I've written one for Connor too." And he said, "They want to release it as a single. What do you think?" So he played it to me, and I said, "I don't think it's a single. It's a beautiful song, but I don't think it's a single." And that was Tears in Heaven. So what do I know, huh?
But it is a very beautiful rendition he does, and it's just him and Brad Cole on the piano, and very.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a lower key. It is a lower key, but I really do like it, and in fact, almost to an extent, I might actually prefer it than the studio version. Even though the studio version is wonderful, it's got a great, it's got these wonderful harmonies in it as well, very powerful.
Yeah, kind of like what is it? The Peter Gabriel one. Is it In the Flood? Here Comes the Flood.
Oh, Here Comes the Flood.
Here Comes the
True.
Flood. Which
very good example. Yeah. Very good example. Yeah, the studio version on his number one album, on his first album, his number one album. How can you say that without not making it sound like it's a charting position? But his first album,
I believe it was so. That was his number one album.
Yeah, Here Comes a Flood. In the end, he just said it was way too over the top, and hence why he always just plays it with just him and a piano. But same with this song, Since I Lost You. I think we'll leave a link here as well for you to check out, just to be surprised that there actually is a live version of this. And actually, thanks to YouTube and all these people who love putting up little compilations, someone did put up. I only just saw this about maybe 3 weeks ago. That someone put up like a little Phil acoustic versions of songs, and he does obviously acoustic versions of him and In the Air Tonight with this piano and maybe Daryl, and then this version of Since I Lost You is also included in it. And it's actually a really lovely collection of acoustic versions of his songs, both him and Genesis material.
We'll link that in there too. Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's a wonderful rendition. But yeah, so it's a daring subject, and obviously it's kind of a one where you listen to and you're like, oh, you kind of have to kind of almost be drawn back into that world again. I mean, thankfully, you're saying, well, at least
a nightmare.
At least it's a bit like with the whole Bob Geldof lyric with the Band-Aid single. Well, tonight, thank God it's them instead of you. It's kind of like, well, I'm listening to the song, but to put it in this kind of same context, like, well, at least I'm not Eric Clapton, I'm not Eric, it's like, I can still listen to this, but just be like, okay, nice song, whatever, but not having to thankfully go through.
But definitely listening to it as a 10 or 12-year-old versus listening to it now or having had kids and stuff. Too.
I mean, I can't tell you when I first heard about it. I mean, I felt like I heard about the subject matter quite quickly after that, but I guess the news was the story was very fresh, obviously, in the news, so we probably heard about it from our own parents or something like that at the time, because it was very fresh at the time. So, but
I guess it does set up, like, because it's kind of like, if anything's a lesser song on the album, it will be this one, which is kind of a perfect placement for it. Then for the it's a
good penultimate song for the before, as you put it very nicely, the grand finale of the album. Which, we come now to the last song of the album, very properly titled Fading Lights. Tony's second song on the album to write the lyrics for, but the whole thing does feel completely Tony. It's just Tony all over this song.
Perfect song. I have all my notes here. I just wrote one word.
This is a killer song.
It's just a perfect Genesis.
It's a perfect Genesis song,
and this is the one too that when a lot of the Peter lovers, who disregard Phil, the Peter and Phil lovers who disregard the 80s, and those ones who ignore the 90s ever happened, whatever, they all will admit, okay, Fading Lights, I like that one, because that one's so good.
But I love Tony's chords in this. I love his keyboard sound in this throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
You can't really tell what Mike is doing, unfortunately, sadly, unless you hear the live version. I have to say, I'm not really 100% sure what the guitar is doing exactly.
You can. Well, I think, what I've always interpreted as the first verse and the chorus, Mike's not doing anything.
Okay.
In my opinion. And then as the second verse comes in, that's when he starts to do the little bit on the guitar, which for the last Domino tour, when they played this part of it, he did it right at the beginning of the song.
He was actually doing it on the 12-string as well, because obviously from that tour they went straight into Cinema Show. The instrumental section of Cinema Show.
I wonder if this was on the 12-string. Maybe it's.
I don't know. Perhaps,
But anyway, actually, no, it's not. No, it's not. Now that I think about it, when I've seen it.
Well, the Weekend Dance Tour is just on the regular 6-string, and it is in a slightly lower. I think slightly lower key as well. Like semitone lower, which means
again, really some really high notes he's hitting with the chorus.
But so if it's a semitone lower, then that poor Tony, especially Tony, had to transpose everything. All the solos half a step lower.
But if anyone could,
Tony there. But he probably when the first Phil mentioned that, he's like, God damn, Phil. Oh, honestly. Okay, fine. Give me a few minutes here. I need some time, okay? Because you can probably imagine in the rehearsal that Phil tried it.
Okay, no, this is where he says, okay, we've got to cut Way of the World and Leave Him Forever, because if you want me to do this, I can't do that.
Oh, true, yeah. And again, but going back to just very quickly, the opening lyric, another time it might have been so different. That does really actually paint a picture for you. It's kind of like Queen's "These Are the Days of Our Lives."
I was also thinking a bit as a ending track because wasn't the show must go on? Wasn't that a final track on?
It was it was the final track on Queen's technically last proper full band official album. Yeah, before the passing of Freddie.
Was it Kind of Magic?
What? Oh no! The album was Innuendo, which
Innuendo,
also came out in the same year, '91.
Which is actually my favorite. I think it's my favorite Queen
Innuendo,
song.
yeah, it's a very awesome song.
So I kind of similar to
Yeah,
Fading Lights. And
now I'm kind of wondering like what Tony might have been thinking at
and-
the time when he wrote this. I mean, it's a very Tony lyric, kind of like wondering like all about the end.
I mentioned in a previous episode, I think it's his best lyrics he's done. They're really like powerful and explain a lot.
I don't know, perhaps as you get older, really, you find yourself looking back sometimes and thinking about things that can't be anymore. And you don't quite know what's going to happen in the future, so you don't know quite what is the final thing. When you're actually experiencing the last time you ever do something, you don't know that it is the last time you ever do it, which is sort of interesting thought, I thought. And so I kind of wrote a song about that. And sort of just generally looking back, it's a nostalgic sort of song. I mean, it could be corny, but I think I was quite pleased with some of the lines in it.
Yeah, and at the time, I wouldn't be surprised if someone read the lyrics and was listening to this and they're thinking to themselves like, okay, is Tony setting us up either for the ending of Phil with this band or the ending of this band altogether? Because like it really felt like, okay, what's going on here? What's going on? Or you just be like, okay, Tony, please tell us you're just singing a song about wandering.
I mean, just the way it slowly builds and then slowly with the the drum machine pattern coming in and the chords, the singing, and then having Mike coming in the second verse, and you're just like, you think, I mean, you might like, I can't remember hearing it for the first time. I knew I loved it right away, but just hearing this, you might think, and you see all the it's got a full like song list of lyrics, like it looks like a full song and everything like that. You wouldn't think there's going to be this incredible solo coming, and so you're slowly you're like, oh, it's just a beautiful little song about the ending and life and all these different things, relationship and stuff, and then all of a sudden, oh my god!
See solos are a bit like sort of like stories and things like that. When I'm doing something like the Fading Lights thing, the reason I wrote the lyric in the way that I did in the end was because I thought the idea of the solo being a sort of example of a kind of life, ups, downs, and things going right and wrong away. It's quite a nice way of doing it, Because the way I write solos is they have a lot of variety in them. They don't tend to stay in one mood all the time, so you tend to get the different flavours coming in and out.
You explode into this section, yes.
Especially on the album version versus the live version, because they had to do it all different live so that Phil could get to his drum kit in time.
Yeah.
And I think this was in I can't remember which interview, but I think it was an interview with Tony where he was saying the solo bit is the kind of fighting in the relationship and bringing them to the end of the relationship because of the turmoil they've been having.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. I never realized that before, yeah. Well, there's one big fight. one big
fantastic fight.
One big long-lasting 8-minute fight, whatever. So
I mean, and it shows that this is the perfect song in many ways because Tony tried to do the same thing again on the Calling All Stations album with There Must Be Some Special Way. No, There Must Be Another Way.
Must be another way, yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
There Must Be Some Other Way.
Oh, must
That's
be some
the
other
one.
way, sorry.
Where he literally uses the same sounds on the freaking keyboard solo too, and it just doesn't do it for me. I mean, I like its song, but I feel like there's something missing in it. And whereas Fading Lights, it's just perfection.
Yeah, it has so many, and we go to so many different sections in this song, and I really get emotional listening to the solo, especially. I think it's the solo. I think it's the second solo where you have these almost like screaming notes, and I hear that, and again, it's that moment.
When he starts the second solo, and it's just like the first, two notes that they last like 10 seconds each, practically.
Yeah,
that gives me goose pimples every time.
And just like
I've got them right now. Just thinking of it.
and just like Way of the World, that moment for me, I mean, naturally, I do turn it up when the solo begins, but that moment right there, I turn up just a little bit more.
And the fact that they
because-
managed to recreate it so well live too,
Yeah.
just it's the same impact.
and
And
wonderfully,
and then the way it's got this beautiful, his solo and everything, and then it could easily finish there if it wanted, but Mike has a nice, wonderful accompanying guitar solo at the end there. And again, the song could have just faded out there, but no, they decided to
they went
bring
back
it
into
back.
that again.
and-
But I like that again, Tony, he uses, going back to the Lamb era, he uses the little crossover hands section as well in the song.
Right,
that.
yes.
So
I remember everyone
they are-
talking about that. Like,
they
oh,
are-
it's a callback to that.
They really are just pulling everything out again for this one last
I'm sure
track.
if it was, I think the last time that was me and Sarah Jane. I
no
wanna
reply,
say.
no reply,
Or
no reply,
no reply at all, I
that's
think it
right.
was.
So
Yeah.
we're going back like
Yeah.
almost 10 years. Oh no, it is 10 years. 81 is the same. Same.
Right? 10 years again.
There
10
you go.
years again. I think they know what they're doing here. They're like, 10 years, we're going to do these things.
Yeah.
We're bringing these old standards out.
But I mean, yeah, I have no, and this is one of the things where if I'm gonna hear that solo out of the blue from a car, in some way, if it was possible, a car radio, if someone happened to be listening to it on a car radio or whatever, or somehow it just comes out of nowhere, I'll be like, I'm gonna listen to this quickly. Just give me about 6 minutes here. I need to listen to this very quickly. I'll never get tired of it. Never, ever get tired.
Everyone needs to shut up. So I can focus on this.
It's like, listen, I got to tell you something. I'm pregnant. Solo. It's fading light solo. Okay, I don't care if you're pregnant. What's going on? It's like, I'm gonna listen to this quickly.
That'll be
Talk to
later.
you later. Okay.
After this.
I meant we hear the gong. Really so punchy, and when that comes in as well, I think that's probably another one where the volume button goes up even more for me. I think I have reached. I think I have turned the speakers up to 11.
Everything goes
At
to
that
11.
point, it's like by not even halfway through the solo, I'm on 11.
So there's the gong at the beginning, and then there's the gong at the end too, with or at least once with
Yeah,
when
that's
Mike's solo
basically
comes
right
in,
when the
too.
solo comes in. Mike's solo comes in. There, the gong almost just takes it to this next level. It's as if to say, Genesis, like, okay, you know what? If this is the end, let's go out with one last bang. And it's kind of like, okay, now it also gets to me that point as well, because I'm like, well, that's it. We have now heard the last of Tony's solos, at least in the Phil era. And we know now that after Mike's this little solo here, which definitely is not as long, but we know we're now kind of reaching the end. This kind of like we're reaching the coda, the last section of the solo section here, and we're going to go back into reverse again.
Right.
And it's all coming down, which means as well, very, very special moment to me as well, that when you kind of, because Phil's drums kind of fade out, and when he starts to sing the lyric, another chance, hello, another, on that another part, you just hear the sound of Phil's cymbal, and that moment is very sensitive for me, because me personally as well, especially because that's literally the last time you hear Phil's drums on a Genesis record.
Phil.
You see, so you hear that cymbal drift off, and that's it. Phil's drums are done in this band.
That's the end.
You got the drum machine.
That's how it
That's
ends,
that's the end of Phil's drums. Where it all started for
that's
him.
him.
Drums, back right from the musical box, and oh my God, 20 years exactly, 71. There you go. Kicking off with
I know what they were doing.
thing like with musical box, where very subtly just brings in little bits of drums here, bits of drums there, and then you got that killer heavy metal solo. But yeah, and
play
it's
the
wonderful,
opening
and it's
chords
wonderful with the live
lead into
version
it.
that they set up so nicely for Phil to get to his drums, and then it's like, then you've got the three of them again.
Yeah. Oh, it's just
Yeah,
so.
and you've got the
you're
three of them again.
and then you're like, sorry, Daryl. Sorry, Chester. You need to sit
And I
this
think
one
that's
out.
brilliant. I think
The maestros are
I
going to
think that's
go and
wonderful.
jam
Have
together.
the core members
Yeah.
appear there for one song, the three of them, and then playing as a three-piece. And you think to yourself, well, last time they did something like that, apart from maybe a little bit on, well, even though it wasn't the same members, but like Brazilian, for example, it's mostly just Daryl, Phil, and Tony.
Oh, okay.
With
Right.
But the last time you really got to see that was them performing live with Cinema Show, and it was just the three of them.
When we saw them, when I got to see them live for Turn It On Again tour, and I won front row seats, which was just a dream come true through the website for them, and got to see them with my wife in the front row. She's not a huge Genesis fan. She's had to enjoy Phil and accept Phil over the decades because of my obsession, which she doesn't mind. But even she was able to pick up on that, she knows some of the songs and all this stuff. But the moment she could tell when they were really like doing something special was when they were like jamming together with doing solos and stuff, like Cinema Show and things like that.
Yeah.
There was a special magic happening.
To-
We could
totally.
talk more about this probably if we do an episode on the Last Domino tour, but I really disagree with how they just did the singing part of Fading Lights and didn't use the solo. I think I did hear they were trying to use the solo and then they cut it out, but I think it was a mistake. And I really hate the transition into Cinema Show.
It is a very bizarre transition, and especially because they go into, even though it was great to hear Cinema Show again, but I saw them on the Turn It On Again tour, and they did it there too. And the fact being that they would repeat technically a previous song from the last tour, and cut out the whole instrumental section of Fading Lights. It's I agree with you there.
Okay, we'll leave that for you
almost
for the
sacrilegious.
Last Domino debate.
Yeah. So but as it says, we have reached the end of the album, the last album for Phil, the last track on the record. It's a perfect ending for an album. And of course, you can't stop the song. The song has to fade out. The song Fading Lights does have to fade out.
Yep.
Because it's
It's
again
in the title.
isn't the picture on the record a night sky and someone kind of partially
It's
covered by a
actually
mountain?
so it's more similar to the same. Yeah, it's a hill again, similar hill to what they've had.
Yep.
We should actually. I was curious to know who the artist is and stuff, and how they did this. They must have done a whole series of things. But it's it looks like it's sunset, because there's no sun, and it's like pink and purple and blue skies.
Oh,
and
right.
it's the hill, and then it's a man and a woman. It looks like the man is not wearing the hat, but they're basically going down the hill on the other side.
Yeah.
Showing
Yeah.
going away and an end.
Going away. That's right. I remember that now.
see it.
Yeah. Wandering off.
Yeah, I mean, from Phil's Not Dead Yet book, I mean, it seemed like it wasn't really towards the end of or halfway through the tour, as he was cheating again on his current wife, of just, then he was starting to realize that he wanted to leave the band and all this stuff, and that was kind of the end. But it's taken me a long time to accept that was the end and feeling sad and all that stuff, but this is the perfect song to end Genesis on, in my main opinion.
Yeah.
At least the Phil Genesis.
At least the Phil Genesis. Oh yeah, it's an absolute perfect saying, especially the last line being "remember," because that's what we keep doing. This is why.
And not just remember, but the way he pulls it out, so it's just like this stretching.
Yeah, and that's what we keep
Beautiful.
doing. All of us, all fans, 30 years later, we still reminisce. We still remember. We're it's like, Phil, that's exactly what we're doing. We are. Technically, we should say it to Tony because he wrote it. But and that's exactly what you can feel like with this band that's doing. They are going off, into some Genesis universe somewhere where they'll just keep on playing, in a forever timeless loop. One could wish. So
I'm just gonna check real quick that the weird picture they had.
on the album,
weird little photos. The album.
yeah,
photos,
it's basically the three
band.
of the three of them,
The album photos of the band. Yeah.
which looks like they're either it's actually the aftermath of a party, or
It looks like it. Yeah.
or they're the ones at a party but they can't dance, so they're just gonna sit this one out, So
That's true. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's because there's two images. One where they're just looking very despondent,
yeah,
unhappy. Phil's wearing a party hat.
that's right.
And then there's another one where Mike's wearing the party hat, and they're all wearing strange, nerdy glasses.
I was gonna say isn't there a picture where at least one of them's wearing it, but all three of them are wearing it. Brilliant, cool. Oh,
Show you real quick. Yeah.
that's the one. Yeah.
See it? I guess we touched a little bit on this, but just the name for the album, "We Can't Dance," a
Mm-hmm.
play from "I Can't Dance." But we've talked a bit about how there's the father and son on the cover. Um, it's possibly stories and lessons being shared between a father and son, or a parent and a child, on different subject matters and things of lessons for life.
Yeah.
The way I also kind of took it too is, and I think it is over decades of just thinking about it too, of "we can't dance," as in you can't just pretend everything is fine in the world anymore and
Mm-hmm.
say we're all groovy, everything's good. Let's just be happy.
Everyone.
Don't worry, be happy. Basically saying we can't dance around it. You have to accept that there are lots of people always suffering in the world for different reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to acknowledge that. And if you can help in some way, do it. But
Yeah,
you need to acknowledge it as opposed to just putting a blind eye on it,
that's right.
as a lot of the CEOs of Twitter and Amazon and various other ones who, they give to charity, but overall they could be doing much more and they choose not to.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
that you need to, it's a statement on that, I feel, which Phil is carrying over from But Seriously,
Mm-hmm.
with obviously the
Mm-hmm.
name of that
Mm-hmm.
album and all that stuff too. Um, but it's not even so much I feel, is Phil just putting his stamp on this album and stuff too. It's, you know, if you're a human living in this world and you have any decency in you, you can't ignore this.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this resonates just as strongly 2023 with all the various things going on in the world, climate change and all this other stuff.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
and living in California right now too, and just the way the rest of the country is going against LGBTQ and transgender people and all this stuff, and it's just really hard. And just we do what we can, but it's just hard to accept that there's still people that
Yep.
feel other people don't have a right to exist.
Yeah. It's crazy. It is really crazy.
But that's what I've taken from the name for the album, "We Can't Dance," and that's what
Yeah.
it's meant to be
Yeah.
over the years.
No,
I think,
I
and
totally get
continues to.
that. Like I said, which I also mentioned to you that even back in the day when we first had this album, you said like, oh, I can see why it's called "We Can't Dance." It's like "No Son of Mine," and then TV evangelists. English railways, hit and run, famine. So yeah, it made total sense. In a way, you can almost call it a concept album because the whole thing evolves around
Yeah, true.
at the whole
Prog to the
And
end,
as you
right?
say, as you say, it could be a dad just because it's interesting how the pictures are quite similar, like a father and a son, and
Yep.
there they are, and the father was just kind of like explaining to the son like all these things in the world. So yeah, it could very well be.
And I will say, not that I love everything about Tabletop Genesis, the podcast, fantastic, but they were kind of negative a bit on this album because they were more Invisible Touch kids who discovered Genesis during that time. But they were kind of negative on the unusual logo, the new logo for Genesis, the name on this one.
Right.
And again, it could be because this is where it started for us, but I absolutely love it.
I love it. I
The
absolutely
cool
love it
little
too.
font, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually literally have Genesis in that logo. I have the bumper sticker on the back of my car because I love it so much.
And I still have my Genesis T-shirts from the Turning On Again tour, and I'm so thrilled that it's the same font that was
They use
used
it
for that
I mean,
tour.
obviously the band likes it too, yeah, because they keep reusing it, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
And I also thought it was very cool because it was, I think Volkswagen was a sponsor for
Yep.
the We Can't Dance tour.
Yep.
And I do remember they made a Volkswagen Genesis that looked like just any old Volkswagen, but it said Genesis on the side. So of course I wanted one, even though I
That's
was
true.
12 at the time.
Drag. I didn't have it here, but actually, I think we do have somewhere in our possession here that little toy car, that little toy Volkswagen car here with the Genesis logo on it.
Oh,
as
you
well.
had it? Where'd you
We
get
do.
that?
I have no idea, but I think we still have it somewhere around here. I
Well,
don't
it
know.
makes sense being a German car maker. You might have it, but yeah,
Where
I wonder if that
yeah.
car exists anywhere else. Does anyone else? I like to think the few models that were, a few copies of that car that were purchased. I like to think that they're Genesis fans.
If there's anyone by chance who happens to own that exact car that we're talking about, please send pictures of yourself in it. We'll happily,
Me and Virgil pod.
We'll happily
Me and Virgil
blast you all
podcast.
over the website.
So yes, send that in if you're listening. Me and Virgil pod at gmail.com.
We guarantee you will get the spotlight. So for that. So
Shall we move on to what do you want to do next? Yeah, you pick your host.
well, as we're still on the songs, then let's just touch on the B-sides of these songs.
Correct.
I was kind of wondering if we should have talked about that in the previous episode because these B-sides belonged to the singles from the album, which came from the first side. So, first one then, no particular order, but we'll talk on about the first B-side, which was for the B-side for I Can't Dance, which is, I think that was actually the first single, On the Shoreline.
There is a place where two worlds collide. The power storm against the pull of the tide. You can stay with your feet on the ground, or step into the water, leave the dry behind. On the shoreline, meet me on the shoreline, where you can only swim if you try.
Now, it's argued as well that this song should definitely have been on the album because of how killer it is.
Some say yes, some say no. I say yep,
I say yes.
110%.
I think maybe the one reason that it maybe is out of place with the rest of the album is because it is a little bit too fantasy-like in terms of the lyrical content. Actually, I wanted to double check who wrote it. I would not be surprised if it was Tony.
I'm pretty sure it's a Tony one. I can't see it on my list here, but I'm pretty sure it's a Tony.
Oh, it does not state on Wiki. It does not state.
On my thing, it doesn't say, but I'm
It just
I'm
says
pretty
which
sure
single
it's
it comes
Tony.
from. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, a very strong, powerful piece. It does have a bit of like feeding the fire vibe to it from the Invisible Touch era
totally,
as
yes.
well. I still, even to this day though, as a musician, I still I only did it once that I managed to get I managed to come in correctly on beat 1 on that track. Otherwise, I keep
with the drum bit.
Yes, otherwise I keep messing up where the actual beat 1
Unless
is
you're watching
once
a
the drum
timer,
starts.
you won't know.
Because it does have this kind of like chunky thing, and you
The
just kind of think
build.
like, oh, is the one there? Is the one there? Is the one there? And then Phil's drum start, and you think like, oh, it's the one there then. But then it's like, oh, but then once the cymbals comes in with the chords and everything, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, nope, I missed that. And like I said, I've only nailed it once, and that was probably about a year ago. I've not nailed it before that or since then. So,
And
but
you're
I
just going to get older.
But I think just like, yeah, the first line is like, well, there's a place where worlds collide. Unfortunately, I don't have the rest of the lyrics here though. On the shoreline, I just think though you're kind of thinking more like over the, thinking of like somewhere at a rainbow and all these kind of things. I mean, I guess it's just meaning about where the shore meets.
See, to me,
meets the
yeah,
shore
I've heard
meets
it,
the seaside.
yeah.
The shore meets the beach. The
Right.
front line. So.
So to me, I've heard it many times, and I feel it's more metaphorical. And to me, it's about being too nervous to take any risks in life, to just sit back and let things happen, and play everything easy. And that if you actually want to meet that special person, try and get that promotion, achieve that goal that you haven't really you say you don't care about, but you actually do, you have to leave that shoreline and move.
Wow.
That's how I've always interpreted it.
Very
Yeah.
poignant. Okay. Makes sense.
I love that they use the elephant sound of No Son of Mine in it. That's why I feel it should have been on the album, because it's such a beautiful, like,
I know.
yin yang other half to it and stuff. Adds in a feel to the proggy feel of it, and stuff too. I actually have on here, I made up what I call a We Can't Dance Deluxe Edition, where I've included that on the. I redid the track list and included that on there, and that's my opener.
Ah, cool. So yeah, a great track. I guess just maybe it was a little bit too out there in terms of the lyrics. Probably why it isn't on the album. So, but otherwise, I still wish it was. It's a very powerful song. And from my geeky side of things, actually, I tend to include this on the album when I play it through, and I just basically include it exactly where it sits for the single of I Can't Dance. It sits right after I Can't Dance, and I think it's a perfect spot for it. So you got I Can't Dance, On the Shoreline, and then Never a Time. So, and I do it, and I do exactly the same for the next B-side, which is Hearts on Fire. it's got that very rocky title, isn't it? Which actually,
Yeah.
I was listening to this. I actually was playing this song to a bass player friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh, it's kind of cool." And he said, "Hey, wasn't there a song called Hearts on Fire from a Rocky film?" And we both
That's right, yes.
started to go like, "Hearts on Fire."
Is it Survivor, or I'm trying to think, or Florida?
I have no idea.
Journey,
I have
one of
no
those
idea.
bands that do
But
it?
to be honest, we're both like, hey, this song kind of reminds us a lot of that, and we're like, maybe that's why they wrote it. Maybe that's why they did it. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a Phil lyric. It just, I don't know why. It just says that.
Yeah,
feel to
I
it.
agree. I think so too.
Very thumping.
Tony,
very pumping.
if you're listening, Tony, cover your ears real quick. I don't like Tony's keyboard playing. I don't like the sound. It sounds
Dum,
too
dum,
cheesy,
dum,
horny.
dum, dum,
And I-
dum,
That's
dum,
why I
dum.
don't. Yeah, and then the it's too bad. That's why I was like, okay, this is definitely a B-side for me. However,
Yeah.
I do remember hearing it on. Yeah, I do like the percussive bit of Phil doing that. That's fun. But I do remember hearing a bit of it on the No Admittance documentary.
True, it is on there.
And I was like, when I was hearing it, and that was before I could get singles and even do the Zigzag, I was like, what's this? This unheard Genesis, bit of a Genesis song. What is this? I wanted it. It took a number of
Yeah.
years before I could track it down and actually hear it and be like,
And again, in my geeky way, I place it on the album after Jesus He Knows Me because it was the B-side to Jesus He Knows Me, and I think it fits quite nicely between that and Driving the Last Spike. You see, so that's just to throw that in
Yeah.
there too if you fancy doing the same thing. So yeah, but a nice track. But yeah, you can hear why. I mean, it does sound a little bit incomplete. There's some little bits of light drums on it,
Yeah.
but there's no full heavy drums, so it sounds a bit like that. So yeah, that is
technically, there's one more B-side that I wrote down on here.
oh
The I Can't Dance Sex Mix.
oh god.
But that's all I want to say about it. Just that.
Isn't that the piece that you hear though at the beginning of the way we walk?
Technically, it is. Yeah, technically it is. And
Which
it
sounds
does kick
cool.
Off their shows.
That does
It
sound
sounds very
cool.
But
I
then
do
the song
remember-
continues on for 8 minutes and is just, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. It is on the Archives 3, isn't it? Or Archives 2, right?
I think
whole
so.
thing.
Archives 2, Disc 3.
God, is
yes.
it really? Is
I
it
don't know
really
how-
eight?
I've
Is it
listened to
really
a handful
8
of
minutes?
times. I don't know. It feels like it goes on for way too long. And so, yeah.
Jeez.
It's definitely longer
Okay.
than the studio version, yeah.
Wow. All right.
But those are the B-sides, yeah.
Okay, so well, as much as we probably would love to talk about the I Can't Dance Sex Mix, let's move on to maybe something.
For at least another
Yeah.
hour or so.
Let's move on to something now, hopefully a little bit sexier. So, all right, so the drum bit. Welcome back to the drum bit, people. So I only just thought this up today, actually, because reminding myself that it had to be a two-parter episode. So And what I thought of like is a bit of a
Yeah, we need a drum bit at the end of each episode,
yes,
right?
yes. Got work cut out for
Fortunately,
me.
it's what you do, so you're able to come up with
Yes.
stuff.
So okay, it's a little bit of a drum lesson. Also a little bit of drum trivia as well to do with Phil in particular.
Ooh.
So we're gonna look at the song "Jesus He Knows Me" for this particular one. And now, just a little brief lesson, as I was saying here. So, if you can think of like your typical drum groove, just think of your typical pop groove, and this is basically pushed along by what's known as a drum common groove, right? And so you take a song, for example, like Billie Jean, Michael Jackson, right? That drum groove there, that is your typical drum groove. Or another one bites the dust by Queen.
Hi-hat and drum, yeah.
I mean, obviously I was trying to think of like Genesis songs as well. So I thought, okay, well, throwing all the way when those drums kicking in there, there's also it's your common groove there as well, you see. So, and if you were to break it down like say in beats like 1, 2, 3, 4, then with the drums you got the bass drum, which is like your heartbeat, and the next sound that you're gonna hear that people are gonna recognize to get them on the dance floor is your snare drum, right? It's your backbeat there,
Right.
and that normally takes place on beat number 2, and then you go back to the bass drum for beat number 3, and then snare drum for beat number 4. So 1, 2, 3.
A song that
4.
comes to mind immediately is "Don't Lose My Number." A lot of Phil's stuff has that regular drum beat.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit more complex of the bass drums doing there, but yeah, it's a bit like that. So yeah,
Yes.
but yeah, so
Because you couldn't make it
so
easy.
1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, bass drum, snare drum, bass drum, snare drum, bass, snare, bass, snare. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jesus, He Knows Me though. Not sure. I'm guessing because Tony had the keyboard marks that piece first with this whole da 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 da, that Phil then got into his head to like, because the first of all, like it's a very fast tune, and it's almost like what you call like a double time marching thing. It's based like 1 da ba ba 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. It's super fast, the song. Quite a challenging one to play, and more challenging so because Phil is not putting his bass drum on the typical placements on the beats 1 and beats 3. So he's actually putting it so if you were to like jump into the space between the numbers, what's actually called subdivisions, we're going very technical here, you would actually get the ands, so the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But you can also go even deeper into that, and you can go even between the numbers 1, between 1 and the and the 2 and in the end, and the 3 in the end, and the 4 in the end as well.
Do you do half numbers, or you just how do you describe them?
Yeah. Basically, we describe it by using fractions. In fact, so with your numbers, those are your quarter notes, and then when you start to add the ands in, those will be your eighth notes. So again, bit like cutting a piece of cake. Now we're going to cut the cake even more in half now. And 16th, exactly that 16th notes. To actually describe what those 16th notes are, it's actually described as the letters E and R. So 1 E and R, 2 E, or not R, sorry, It's the easiest letter to say in the alphabet, so you can just like go. So it's like 1 E, 1 E and
So
2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay. So, and those will be your eighth notes. Is what Phil decided where he was going to put the bass drums in the song "Jesus He Knows Me." So, and to
can you mime it real quick or describe it kind of as
well, yeah,
how it
well,
sounds?
basically, if you were then to start say, so you got the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's what Phil's doing. He's putting those bass drums in every single one of those letters. So it's like da 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 1 a 2 a 4 a 2 a 4 upper 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 upper. So
there's like 3 times as much bass drum than there should be.
Yeah, he's basically putting those bass drums, but all right before each of those snares.
It sounds like it's a lot of work on your foot.
It is a lot of work,
Your
and
ankle,
it's a lot of
and your ankle and your calf.
It is a lot of work to do and very challenging. But then Phil, he can play. I mean, I know that obviously eventually to a certain point, he was still playing quite a lot at this point, still playing quite a lot, but probably still not as much because obviously he's doing solo stuff and singing a lot and everything. So he's definitely not a full-time drummer anymore at this point. But he still can definitely play. So there you go. So that is your non-typical common groove being played with this Jesus He Knows Me. But the drumming part fits beautifully because like it's again, you got a bit of a reggae feel going here. Now this is definitely not a reggae beat. I'm not saying that, but he's still incorporating this very tough subdivisional thing here. So there you go. That's what he's doing.
Does that happen? Does that happen very often? Like, do the police do that a lot, or just
Yeah, totally. Like
style.
you basically like you just want to tell yourself like, you know what, I don't want to play very typically on this song. I want to be different. You see. And again though, you can make that executive decision by simply hearing what everyone else is doing as well. You could also be the first person to say, you know what, I'm playing this song differently. Everyone else now right around what I'm playing.
Otherwise, maybe it was also Phil just coming off his solo stuff that's a lot more straightforward with that beat, and now he's back in the studio and he was like, oh, I'm back at the kit. I want to do weird stuff, crazy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
now was this reproduced correctly live? Did Chester play it that way too?
Chester did a great job of it live.
Hear me when I say Jesus, He knows me, and He knows I'm right. Well, I've been talking to Jesus all my life. Ah, yes, He knows me, and He knows I'm right. But He's been telling me that everything is gonna be alright, alright.
Now, if I'm going to be analytical here and technical here, Chester does appear to be a lot more confident and experienced with the way he plays it. But again, Chester Thompson at this point, he is still a very, very full-time drummer here. Okay, he just simply has had more experience and practice time to do this, you see. So he is throwing a little bit of extra things into it as well, but he is still incorporating that very offbeat bass drum pattern here. So
the fact is, because you got Chester who's just doing drums all the time. That's what he does
all the time.
Whereas Phil does so many things. It's just
and there is a little bit of footage of Phil playing it actually in the making of documentary, and you can see like he's playing these parts, and when he's doing these little fills, you see his face kind of like he's what's the word? He's grinding. It's almost like he's grinding his teeth. He's grinding his teeth. You know, he's like
he's working at it. It's hard work. It's not easy. Basically, it's not natural and fluid. Yeah.
No, so even the pros, like, they will find their struggles with it and everything. So, and now we come to the trivia part of this story.
Oh,
that's okay. The section here that it's no surprise. Of course, I want to say that, but so according to the chapter and verse Genesis book that came out around about the same time as the Turn It On Again tour. So on this album, they've just hired Nick Davis.
Genesis co-producer and engineer on We Can't Dance, Nick Davis.
We haven't actually got an engineer, but Nick's going to be answering the phone for the reception.
So he's their new producer engineer after the amazing work that Hugh Padgham had provided with Genesis. And story is that Nick Davis they were doing Jesus He Knows Me, and the band had left, and Nick Davis was, finishing off a mix for the song. Don't know if it was a final mix or whatever, but he notices something in one of the drum fills that Phil does. And the next day, when they come back in, Nick Davis, new hired person, by the way, the newest member in this very enclosed space.
They have been private about the creation of their work. Very private. Up until now, they have kept everyone else out.
This is Genesis recording new material. Everyone
these
out.
rock gods have been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah. He goes and tells one of the most recognizable drummers on the planet, one of the most recognizable pop stars on the planet, saying, Phil, that drum fill you did over there,
Yeah, well, there's more noises.
it's a bit dodgy. I mean,
Is there a video of this? Or
no,
what?
sadly not. It's just basically in
yeah.
his section when he's talking about his time with Genesis. You see,
It's in the book,
the chapter.
is it? Okay.
It's in the book. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love to know what his particular testicular region was like at the time when he went to approach Phil at this point.
That would be the highlight of the recording.
Whether
I mean, I'm
it
sure
was
he was
huge
nervous.
or shriveled up.
But also, that's why he's there.
Well,
Otherwise,
that's exactly
they
it.
would just do this themselves. Yep.
Yeah,
You don't do it unless you have that outside
exactly.
influence.
He
outside
mixed the
voice.
album. He was mixing the album, and he was producing the album. So he has ears there, and that's what he's. I mean, he's not just. I mean,
That's his
obviously, he's
job.
not there to. He's not there to look out for mistakes, but he is there to look out for the sound. And to him,
Right.
he heard this right, and now he quoted Phil, apparently saying to him, "Oh, it's going to be like that, is it?" I don't know whether Phil meant that in a joking kind of way. Or,
I'm sure he meant it as a joke.
Or
Unless he was in a
that
bad
Phil,
mood.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Otherwise, maybe the day before that, we could have had the whole Never a Time thing where Phil was struggling to sing Never a Time. When next day in the studio, Phil's coming back in like, I hope I do a better effing job today. First thing that happens, your producer comes to you and saying, listen, that Phil was dodgy. It's like, oh, for God's sakes.
I've already struggling with my singing, and now you're telling me my drumming's bad.
Yeah. It's like, oh, so you're going to tell us
Why
now
am I
that
bloody here then?
we can't play now, can we? So we got this and that.
Do you want to come and have a listen to what we got and so see what you think of them? So, you can hear
So anyway, they sat down, listened to the track, and Phil said, yeah, you're right. It is dodgy. Good catch.
Well, that's why he's there.
They moved.
I mean,
very
and this is
nicely
Nick
moved on
Davis,
after that.
who's done everything since, hasn't he?
He's done everything
doing all
since.
the
He's
newer
he
stuff he has,
he worked on the Calling All Stations album, and he's been in charge of all the reissues and remasterings and everything.
Yep.
So
Right.
yeah,
So-
ever since. So it's he's entitled to his very professional, subjective opinion about this. That is what that's what he's there for.
Out of our 4 drum bits that we've had so far, this has been the most fascinating because I had no clue about this, and then your trivia bit was fantastic.
Cool. No, I'm glad to share it, and hope everyone was incited by that as it was. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine that it must have been very nerve-wracking to be in his
incensed,
shoes.
you mean,
and
with what he said? Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine the nerve, the to be in that guy's shoes and to
The
have to go
ball,
and
as
tell.
they say. Yes, you've got to be. I'm sure he was probably sweating a bit.
Yeah, to go and have to tell him, and then I
hope he did it first thing and got it off his chest right away.
I hope so. And what Tony and Mike might have thought as well, and be like, "Oh God, okay, we got this kind of guy in now," But I don't know. Surely that must have happened with Hugh Padgham as well at some point. I mean, I don't know. So
but I mean, that's what makes an engineer keep having a job and keep getting better and keep being wanted. Is you don't want the guy who just says, "Yeah, I think guys are going to make is perfect."
No,
That's not the point. Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's also why Phil brought in as a producer in so many things. Just like all the times the artists were good, but they knew Phil was a perfectionist in so many things, and they knew they wanted his ear on things.
Totally, and I've been there too. I've worked with many producers, and even whether it was doing a take or after a take, that they'll go to me and be like, that thing you did over there on that part, and I'll be like, either be like, really, or I'll be like, you know what? Yeah, I think can we do that again? Thankfully in this day and age we can just do it again. So we can fix it.
Actually,
or
you
whatever,
see that also even on all the Peter Gabriel stuff, where there's his new album IO and all the new stuff, and just how he talks about his massive crew he has around him, not just the musicians, but all the computer people and engineers and various people that he has around him. I mean, you'd think a guy at the end of his career that he's like, I know it all. I don't need all these people to help me. But he knows that's what makes good music, is having all these different voices and influences and viewpoints to make you perfect, make you better.
Totally. So there you have it. Well, I believe we've covered everything we needed to about this phenomenal album.
We've danced the last dance, and we can dance, and we're all danced out now.
Yeah, actually, one last thing I'd like if I can add to this as well, to kind of echo the the whole subject matter with the whole We Can Dance thing. I mean, sadly, the time that it actually was released was unfortunately the same month that Freddie Mercury actually died as well.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So a bit of a depressing time that year. So maybe that might have also had something to do with the fact that it didn't do as well as Invisible Touch. But again, you look at the two albums, it's one very light in terms of color and flavor and things like that, and one is a bit darker as well. So I mean, it's
But it
always
did
good.
very well though, and I saw it did very well in Germany. And I was looking up recently on the wiki thing, and just multi-platinum and all those different things. Yeah,
they did a complete stadium tour with this album. So they did very well with the album. Did very, very well.
Yep.
So it's fine. It's fine.
It put the food on the table a bit and more.
Yeah, and the fact being that Phil's just jumped off a massive world tour to jump straight into this, and then straight after this, he jumped on just straight back into the studio, made a new album, and then toured that for the next 2 to 3 years.
I mean, the fact that Phil coming off of that, and then you'd think coming back into Genesis and being like, I'm so drained, whatever, what creativity do I have left or whatever. But obviously, there's something magical and a different dynamic that happens with these guys when the three of them get. I mean, I remember Phil saying, I can't remember which interview it was, of just saying it would be nice sometimes to just write some music and do some music together. This was back when he was drumming. But just not to call it Genesis. You don't have to call it this big Genesis thing, and it has to be a Genesis album and all that stuff. Just like just the three of them getting together, because he knew that's when he was kind of happiest. I think was just the three of them hanging out. I mean, that's why they're all, close friends still to this day and everything. And just
Well, the fact being, you can just like hang out with your two best friends and create music with them. I mean, you can't have a better time than that, So
I mean, there's not many. I don't think there's not many bandmates that have been together for 50 years and can still call each other as good friends. I guess Rolling Stones would be another one. Comes to mind since they're still going.
True. Yeah, true. Yeah, but there you go. So, all right, okay, so
that
now...
was our We Can't Dance
that's
album, yeah.
That's the We Can't Dance. We'll always love it. Just the other day, I was like, oh, am I correct? Is that my favorite album, or is it Duke? But as we've kept talking about it, though, it's like, no, I do like it. I do still choose it. It's still number one for me. Yeah, it's still number one.
And now, as we're at the end of the second part of this episode, I think "Fading Lights" is. I can't remember where I had it ranked in my top 5 songs, but it's gone. It's gone a bit higher again.
Oh, actually, one last question we probably should ask ourselves, if you can: your favorite song on the album?
Oh, that's right. We did a little bit. We forgot to do. Yes. Favorite songs on the album and ones we didn't like so much. Well, I'll start with the one I was a little lesser one, which we kind of hinted at earlier, is Since I Lost You. Still a nice song, but it's a little less than the other songs.
Yeah.
Let's see. Top favorite songs in order. Fading Lights.
Okay.
Naturally. No Son of Mine. And Driving the Last Spike.
Okay.
And then I have Way of the World as a very close runner-up.
Yeah, that was very tough for me too, and I was kind of struggling between. I felt like I've grown a really strong new respect for No Son of Mine and how incredible of a song it actually is, but I am missing just a little bit of that extra edge behind it, because at the end of the day, it is just simply an intro, verse, chorus, outro, end. So I am missing a little bit of that extra song behind it. So it was either a toss up between something like Fading Lights. I mean, I was kind of wondering, like, well, Tell Me Why, Live Forever, Way of the World. It's like, yeah, oh no. I think
songs.
All good songs. So I think at first I was saying to myself, Fading Lights, but then I found myself kept driving back to Driving the Last Spike. So actually, I think that's become now my favorite song on the album. So that's in there. I guess Fading Lights will be right after it, and followed then by. No, I think just in terms of
you were saying a lot about Way of the World and how much you liked Way of the World.
Way of the World is fantastic, and with the keyboard solo and everything. So Driving the Last Spike, Fading Lights. I think I'll just go for the sheer respect for it. No Son of Mine straight after that, and then Living Forever, Way of the World. Yeah, that's how I'll go with it. So yeah, it's tough. But and then in terms of the least amount, then I mean, I know it's important subject matter, but still, Since I Lost You, it's in terms of its sparsity and everything, just in terms of its production. If it was maybe made a bit differently, a bit more like with just Phil and Tony, that would have been a very interesting version to hear. for example, and then Mike
But
would,
I mean,
would have liked guitar.
this is hard enough as it is. You have to pick. Something has to be at the bottom, right?
Yep.
And if you make this better, then it makes our job even harder to pick.
Yeah,
and
and I think if I had to choose between the two big slow ballads on the album, well, if you're excluding "Hole in My Heart," yeah, between that "Never a Time" and "Hole in My Heart," it's like, since I lost you, I think just because of also it is a very slow song as well, and it has.
I think those are the two shortest songs on the album. Too.
And it has a waltz feel to it, a swing, like a one and two.
I do like the.
Three,
I will say, I mean, it's unusual, but I do like the drum roll intro, which is a little unusual.
That is nice. Too. That is nice. Yes. Yeah. But yeah. So there we have it. Okay, now we are done. We're spent.
Yes.
Yes. So
okay, good. We got done.
We thank you all. We thank you all for tuning in.
Yes.
And thank you for staying with us for this two-parter epic. We'll be back.
We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed talking about it, and as you can tell how much we talked about it, we enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. So we shall be back. It will be another random subject matter.
Right.
Meanwhile, then, it is good night from me.
And good night from Virgil.
And we thank you all once again.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you all next time.
Me and Virgil chop some wood, but we stop our swinging just to listen to a cry.
Thank you for listening to Me and Virgil, a Genesis Brothers podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you can get new episodes as soon as they're released. Feel free to rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to mention us to your Genesis friends so you can agree or disagree with what we talked about on the show. Me and Virgil, a Genesis Brothers podcast, is edited by Dan Telander and produced and hosted by Dan Telander, aka me, and Alex C. Telander, aka Virgil. If you'd like to reach us to let us know what you thought about this episode, or if you wanted to correct something we were very wrong about, you can reach us at meandvirgilpod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok under the handle meandvirgilpod for announcements and info about the show, as well as anything else we think you'd be interested in related to all things Genesis. For now, thanks again for listening. We really appreciate it, and see you on the next episode of Me and Virgil, a Genesis Brothers podcast.
Well, me and Virgil, we beat the desert, we're riding fast and riding hard. We hit the city, the past behind us, so we raised some hell, we had some fun. And to this day, I can hear my saying to me, you're a big boy now.
So real quick, Dan, because you're going to do a drum bit for this, aren't you?
Yeah.
We're not going to have time to.
Okay.